So in this video, I'm going to give a brief tutorial, a brief overview of Livestream Studio 6, which is put out by Vimeo and that we have through our Vimeo Premium subscription to use for our live stream. There's a lot of different other softwares out there. Some of them are free to live stream, but this one works well for us. It's simple and it works very well with Vimeo, very streamlined. I'm not necessarily going to go into how we go about running the live stream on a Sunday morning. That's better learned by hands-on practice. But just kind of an overview of the features and some things you might need to know, some things you may never need to use, hopefully. But just to give you a better idea of how we use Livestream Studio. So this is what the normal setup is on a Sunday morning. You got Pro Presenter over here, so during songs you can click through the lyrics, and then over here you have Livestream Studio. Just so we can see things better, I want to make this a little bigger. And enter kind of into full screen mode. So when you open up Livestream Studio 6, which is put out by Vimeo, connected to our Vimeo account, which makes things really easy and streamlined, you notice a few different things. You have this top panel, you have the big output screen, you have your inputs, and then you have these tabs. Let's talk about each of these. Up here you have different buttons, go live, record. You have this button here for showing the transcoding cue. You can adjust the headphone volume. You see how much the software is using of the processing power of the computer, the time. There's two different modes to Livestream Studio. You got simple and advanced. We use simple. Advanced is just a little more complicated to use. I'll just kind of show you what it looks like. So if you open up advanced mode, as it loads, you see there's a whole bunch of different things going on here. You have two different screens, you got this transition tab over here, two different tabs, and you can do a lot with all of this, especially if you're doing more advanced things, but for what we want, simple mode will do better, and it's easier to learn, easier to work with, especially on a Sunday morning. It's easier just to kind of click through these. But you can change it there if eventually we want to use that. The name of the kind of the file, I guess, that we're using. You could have different setups, different inputs, different audio setups, and different color correcting things that you can do, and then you could just adjust and just change what file you're in. But it should always be Sunday morning. Here, this will open up, kind of give you, I guess, just some Q&A if you needed to know some things. And then you have the gear tab to go into settings. This just shows different settings that you can edit. You should really never have to mess with any of these. Project format should always be set to HD 1080p 29.97 frames per second. And then the tab configuration should be flat. Then you have your input, outputs, and then all these different settings. It should be logged into Eastport Baptist Church. The streaming settings, haven't had any problems with these, so we should be good. It always records it and saves a recorded file. So if for some reason we lose like 5 minutes of the stream because the internet goes down, we can repost it with the 5 minutes that was missing. But again, you should never really have to edit any of these. Everything should be set and good to go. So that is just a basic overview of this top little window tab here. Now we come to this screen. This is the output. This is what is going to the live stream when you start streaming. And then you have all these inputs down here that you just click to change. So if you're on the lyrics, you just click Mevo. If you want to go to the Mevo, if you want to go to the pulpit shot or like during announcements, you click over to camera 1. That's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You just click on these and it makes it go live. So down here are the tabs, and this is really where you're going to be doing most of your work. Besides clicking through things, you're going to be doing stuff down here. So this is just a list of all of the inputs that you're seeing here, especially the video ones, and then the audio input we have here. So you have all these different inputs. Some of them are a camera, like the camera 1, the Mevo input. Some of them are graphic editors. So you can combine different elements. So like in Band Shot 2, we have the Mevo shot with the Pro Presenter lyrics on top. And I'll show you a little bit how to edit some of that in a minute. We also have the lyrics input, which is coming through NDI from Pro Presenter. It should always be set up where it's sending, but for some reason, sometimes it'll get disconnected and it'll show up there and then it won't be showing anything. And sometimes you just have to click here and then reconnect by clicking it. It'll show up there. And so that usually should be set up, but sometimes you have to tinker with that a little bit if for some reason it's not working. Then we have audio that's set up through the audio interface. You can edit each of these inputs, so you can edit a camera shot with different things. You could change the audio if you wanted. It always converts it to match the project format. You could crop it. You can add a delay, and this is what we do for this camera because it's hardwired in through HDMI to the video capture device through Thunderbolt 3 to the computer. So the timing is going to be a little different from the Mevo, which is sending through Wi-Fi. There's a little bit of a delay. So we want to delay this video to match with the Mevo, and I've found that 275 milliseconds is about the delay between them, and so that should already be set. But if for some reason it gets disconnected and you need to reset it, it's 275 is what you want. Then you can also edit the color. So if we bring up this shot, you can kind of see what this looks like. So you could change the hue. So we have purple pews. Yeah. So you can do a bunch of different stuff with that. Really, this shot looks decent. You could do a little bit, but I find that these controls really don't make it look that much better. Or honestly, I think they probably make it a little bit worse in a lot of ways. But I mean, like this gain here could be helpful. If it's a little dark, you could bring it out a little bit, but you don't want to do anything drastic with any of these controls. You might want to make a minor adjustment here or there, but really just the set the camera has, especially hopefully we get a new camera that has a little bit better lens, then you shouldn't really have to mess with that. But if you need to make it a little brighter or something, you can do that there by adjusting the gain or the brightness and make it brighter. The other, you can do this with the Mevo 2 as well, edit the settings of the Mevo. But again, everything's set where you really shouldn't have to do much. Although here, I just noticed that the Mevo resolution is at 720p. So I actually want to move this to 1080p because that's actually what we've been streaming. And I actually just am realizing this as I'm looking at the settings. I want to change this. So let's see what happens here. We change this to 1080p. It's going to make our shot look a little bit better, actually. So once that works, live editing. All right. There we go. So now that's actually 1080p, where before it was 720p, which is not quite as good. And so it looks like it's still streaming well. We'll have to kind of keep an eye on that now that it's using a little bit more bandwidth. But we'll keep that on for now as 1080p unless we're having difficulties with it. But then again, you can make the adjustments. It's a little bit different with the Mevo because Mevo's built to work with this a little bit more. You could change the view angle to different things. The fisheye, the wide or the flat, narrow. I think normal is just what we want. So there's different settings here. And then again, you don't need any delay on the Mevo because that's what's already delayed. And then you can also edit the audio. Down here, audio 1, click the gear icon, and then you notice here it's set to input 2, left and right. The left and right buttons are clicked. That's because there's two inputs on this audio interface that we have, and we're using the second input, and so we want to be getting the audio from the second input. Right now I'm actually using the first input to get audio for this recording, but these should always be both checked, because otherwise you're only going to get sound in one of your ears if you're listening in headphones. There's also different filters you can edit. This can be somewhat helpful. You can see I kind of edited the EQ a little bit, equalizer a little bit, but it's not even on. You can do different editing there, but you should never really have to edit that because that's what we have the soundboard for. That's already controlling the sound and making it sound good. And then delay, again, 275 for the audio delay to match the Mevo. So those are the settings for the audio. So that's the input tab. You can add an input down here. A Mevo is going to be a remote. An NDI coming from Pro Presenter is going to be remote, and you could also add different things here. Local camera is going to be like the webcam that we have that's just built into the Mac. So now this is on, now you can see me. But normally we're never going to use that, so we'll get rid of that. And then there's also other things you can add, audio, and then here you can see the Ultra Studio Recorder 3G HDMI. That's camera 1. So that's a little bit about the input tab. Come over here to the streaming tab. This is what you're going to be using to start the live stream each Sunday. We're logged into Vimeo, so that should always be good. You should see the Sunday morning that we're streaming on there. The date should be right. If it's not, I kind of give you a little bit of detail how to change it on Vimeo's page in the manual. So you should never have to change any of these settings. They should already be set and ready to go. And then you can change the quality of the stream. We've been doing a little bit higher quality. It seemed to work pretty well last week. We'll continue to monitor that because it's going to use more of the computer processing power, but also it's going to use more bandwidth, more upload speed, and that could potentially be an issue. So if the internet's not working very well on a Sunday, 720p is really the minimum of what we want to stream. We want to be at least streaming that. But we're going to continue to do this as long as it keeps working. And then once we're ready to go live, you just click Go Live. Once you make sure everything's good here, you can also click it up here when you need to go live. That's the Go Live streaming page. Audio tab, you can edit the audio for the different channels, the different inputs. All of these inputs are linked to Audio 1 because that is the USB audio interface. And so you want all of these to be linked to Audio 1 so that whenever you change a shot, the audio stays the same. And you can adjust different things here. You can adjust the overall volume, and you notice they all change because they're all linked. So normally I keep this at 0. Then you have the gain here, which also kind of controls some of the volume. I have it set at 1.8. That's worked pretty well so far. Then over here you have kind of the overall output of the stream. And this is really what you're going to be editing. This should be all set, ready to go. But this is what you want to be editing. You want to make sure you have the volume button clicked because otherwise you're not sending any audio. And you want to make sure you have the headphone button clicked so you can hear it through the headphones as well. Normally we start off our streams down here at 0, and then once we start, pastor starts talking, we bring it up to 0, or he's a little quiet, you can bring it up a little bit, or if the band's a little too loud, you bring it down to -5 decibel, things like that. So that's the audio tab. Really, you should just be kind of bringing things up and down as needed as you're listening. It's always good to have the volume at about roughly just above 50%, 50 or 60%, because if you have it too loud, you might think it's a little loud and you might turn the volume down here when really what you need to do is adjust your headphone volume. So we really want it to be set where it's a good volume at about 50% because that'll make it so whatever people are listening on, they have enough volume. So that's the audio tab. We come over to these 3 tabs. These are graphics tab or GFX tabs. And you can see we have Bandshot 1, we have Bandshot 2, which is the Mevo and lyrics. Bandshot 1 is the Mevo, zoomed in a little bit. And then this one here, slides with video, is for during the preaching to have pastor slides and then camera 1 down here. So you can edit these. They normally should be set. You shouldn't have to do anything with them. But if you had to edit them, you click on the tab, the one you want to edit. So let's say we want to edit Bandshot 1. There's a bunch of different things you can do. Don't worry about this. If you want to learn more about this, you can go to the Vimeo Livestream Studio help page, and there's a lot of details about what you can do with this kind of thing. But if you want to edit the shot, the graphics, you go down to this paintbrush and you click it, and it brings up the shot, and then you can edit different things. So down here you have the different layer, your editing, and you could add text if you want. Really, what you're going to want to be adding are video inputs. So you can add different video inputs, and all the sources are here. So the 3 sources we have are the 2 cameras, the camera 1 and Mevo, and then you have the lyrics as well. And then you also see you can edit the transparency, the opacity of it, the volume. You can change, you can add a shadow and a border. You can adjust the different, colors. You could have a purple shadow, and you can make it like really big. You could do weird things like that if you wanted, but really, we never need to edit any of that stuff. And then you can crop it. So you hit crop, and then you just crop it. You just kind of drag it to where you'd want it to go. And then you'd go to scale to make it bigger. So those are some of the settings in the graphics designer page. Normally this is set, so this one is a little cropped. So this is the Mevo shot, and it is cropped. So you could crop it more or less. And if you want to just kind of reset it, the best way to do it is just delete it by hitting the X and then re-adding it by going down here. And then you can do the Mevo. So say we wanted to recreate kind of the shot we have here, just to kind of show you how to do it. First thing I do is turn off these, and then you want to crop it. So we will really just want to kind of crop out the pulpit just a little bit. So it's more focused on the band. Then we want to bring it up to scale. So you bring it to the corner, and then you make sure you see those little arrows, and then you drag it out. And you can see the way I cropped it, there's still a little bit on the edge we need to work with. So we'd have to bring it back all the way over here, go up, let's see, where is this? Here, go back to crop, and then click here and drag it back out. And now it's the shot you want, more or less, and it's all cropped. And then you could bring it to the back, or you could bring it to the front by right-clicking on it, and then you can edit it that way. You could bring it up or down, depending on what layer you want. You could copy it, paste it, all that kind of thing. So that's kind of just a general overview about how we edit them. And one tricky thing about editing these is sometimes it's kind of hard to tell which one you're actually working with, especially when this one actually is, okay, this is the Mevo, so I want to exit out of this one. And what I actually just did was I deleted all the other ones. So I want to bring the lyrics back on. Go here, go to the lyrics, get rid of that border, get rid of that shadow, bring it to the top, drag it down, and we're good to go. So now there's that shot zoomed in just a little bit. And remember, it's not really zooming in, it's really blowing it up, so it does affect the quality, so you don't want to go crazy with it. This is probably about as far as I would go with the Mevo. And then when you need to get out of here, if you're in full screen like this, you got to kind of bring up to the top, your cursor up to the top, and then just exit out of it. And now you've edited band shot 1. That's how you can edit the GFXs. Really, they should be good to go. But if you do need to do some editing, that's a really quick overview of some of the features. It can get a little complicated, and it does take some practice just getting used to the settings. But like I said, we'll have all these set up. The main thing you're going to have to be doing is just clicking through during the service, and all of these should be set up beforehand. The only thing you might have to edit is you might have to fix this crop a little bit, but probably the best thing to do is actually kind of change the angle of the Mevo camera itself by going over it, just moving it a little bit. The other tab that we'll talk about is the transitions tab. Again, this should always be set up and ready to go, but just so you kind of know a little bit about how it works, is you have all of these different options of what you can do. And you could change it, so we have different transitions, so they do different funny things, but obviously those are kind of clunky and cheesy, so we're just going to stick to the fade. We want to keep it 10 frames a second, or 10 frames per transition, just so it's not super, super fast, but it's also not super slow. I feel like this is a good, smooth transition. And so you could also edit the different graphics if you wanted them to go in a different, so right now they're set to a fade, but they're actually set to go pretty slow. So set all these to 10. And there you go, those are the transitions. That's a general overview of Livestream Studio. Another thing, as I mentioned in the manual, you always want to make sure you have all of your inputs connected. And the Mevo will tell you how well it's streaming. So far, it's been streaming perfectly, haven't been any glitches at the higher quality. And so hopefully that makes things look better on the live stream, and hopefully we don't have an internet issue. That's just the big thing too with live streaming is, do you have enough internet bandwidth? We're downloading fine, but the upload is really the big thing. So hope that's helpful, and just giving you a brief overview of the different features as we seek to use this program to live stream our church services.